Howdy, folks, and welcome back. Creepy Kentuckian here.
I'm Uncle Bill. Hi.
Welcome here to that.
We're going to go back to 1945, Uncle Bill.
That's all talking.
We
This
gotta
was like
change it up a little bit, though. The British in this one, I don't think we can do that. We can't combine the two.
How do you do a British 1945 accent? Really, like it's more like, oh, hello, blah, 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 blah.
Hey, cheerio, chop.
Blah, 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 blah. That's my 1945 British. Blah, 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 blah.
Dude, I swear to God. So we're talking about Dead of Night from 1945. Dumile requested this one, and we've done like a whole collection of these, 30s and 40s horror movies, which I actually don't mind doing. I mean, they're actually it's something a little bit different.
Yeah, this is an experience in filmography, in deadology, if you will, because like a lot of these movies we would never in a million years watch. So like, I feel like if it wasn't for this guy, we would not, we got fucking Carter picking Birdemic and shit over there. But like Dumile is laying out the gauntlet.
He did change it to Birdemic. It is the Birdemic commentary now.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen Birdemic in a hot minute.
I actually have Birdemic, though. Didn't Severn do that?
Yes,
I think they did the Blu-ray of that.
Yeah.
All right. But this one, Dead of Night from 1945, early British horror anthology. I'm not going to say this is the first horror anthology movie because I know it isn't, but I think it's definitely one of the more influential ones. And it kind of started like that whole, like there was a gigantic boom of anthology movies in Great Britain over the 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. You got stuff like Vault of Horror, Tales from the Crypt, The Monster Club, Asylum, movies like that. And this was definitely a huge influence for those films. From 1945, Dead of Night, 4 different filmmakers, Uncle Bill, made this one movie here. Hour and 42-minute movie, I think.
I just want to take a minute because as I was watching it, the very first name that comes up, or one of the very first names that comes up, and it absolutely killed me, is good. Can't even say it. Googie Withers.
That's Googie Withers, old chap.
I just can't believe there's a period of time where people were naming their kids Googie. They're like, that's a good name.
Googie Withers.
That sounds like a strong name, Googie.
It's old Googie Withers it is.
Googie Withers.
Oh, gosh.
So he's in this.
Sir Mervyn Johns plays architect Walter Craig in this, who, the plot of this movie is very, very simple. The movie immediately starts where he is meeting with a group of strangers in this country farmhouse. And all of these people he knows, but from a variety of different dreams that he's had, he recognizes that these people aren't exactly strangers. He has seen them before, Uncle Bill, and then
they have become perfect strangers, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been done in a bunch of other things. I think, I know there's movies that come after this that have done this same kind of thing, where like a group of strangers meet up in a house and they've all kind of like know each other from something else. And I think not Tales from the Crypt, but the Twilight Zone did something similar to this too, that theme. But yeah, when he walks in, you immediately realize that like he's acting really, really strange about something, and like you can't figure out like what it is. And then he's like, yeah, everybody that I am in here with, like all of you people, like I've had dreams about all of you at like one point in time or another. And what's funniest to me about that is for some reason in this movie, they're all just like, oh yeah, tell me more about that. Like nobody questions it whatsoever. They're just like, yeah, That's a
Well,
common thing in 1945.
have you seen me before, fella?
Like, you had a dream about all of us? That sounds like a good idea.
I was a wet dream about me.
Yeah.
There's so from that point on, there's stories told by a variety of the group of people that are hanging out in the farmhouse, and then that's when we get into our different stories in the anthology. And you got to keep in mind, this is 1945. This is very early on, even in
Yeah.
talkie movies as they call them. But you got a lot of early versions of what would become like staples in horror films in this. That, like I said, I don't know if it was the first example of some of this stuff, but it's definitely an early one, and I think it's definitely an influence on the more of the modern versions of, like, I don't know. There's one about ghost children. There was one that was set on like a Christmas horror movie almost.
There's a couple of them that are almost like cliches now at this point. The hearse driver one, which is basically like the room for one more thing that was in. I think that was in like those books, the scary stories tell in the dark, like.
Right.
And then
urban legends.
Yeah, and then you've got like the one where it's essentially the story of this woman goes over to this house and she's talking to this girl, and they're having this long conversation. And by the end of it, you find out that she'd been talking to a ghost the whole time. I mean, this is some really early scared kind of stuff, right? Like your backbone to horror films, really. Like, this was the beginning of a lot of that kind of urban legend, folk tale kind of stuff coming into like movies.
Mm-hmm. And you've got a guy that gets, and this is a really good one. Like, there's some of them that's kind of throwaway, like especially towards the beginning of the movie. Like, I wasn't too into those, but as the movie goes along, like, there's one where this man is gifted this mirror, and he is like almost seemingly possessed from the mirror. He is obsessed with it. His personality is drastically changing because of the mirror. He's looking into the mirror and seeing a different location than where he is. It's kind of some really cool stuff with that one, and the whole story with the two friends that are golf buddies, and nothing that's remarkably great or anything.
No.
But for its time period, 1945, I think that they did some clever stuff for back then.
I thought you meant the episode. No, I think the movie itself, like, is incredibly, like, well done. Actually, like the direction and everything about it.
Yeah, some of the editing in it for its time too, like early special effects stuff. Some of the ways that they did that was pretty remarkable for 1945.
I wasn't a huge fan of the golfer story one, but like the rest of them, like they each had something inside. Even like the simple ones where you already know what the story is because you've heard this story by now, like as just like a ghost story or like a tale that's passed down. Like you've heard these like 1,000 times, but like a lot of them are executed really well. Like the hearse driver and I guess it's the Christmas party one. But the one that I think you and I probably both agree on is the ventriloquist dummy, which that's probably got to be to my knowledge, the first time that's done, right? In a film, surely to God.
I mean, I don't want to say for sure, but it was the first one that I told Uncle Bill this too. I was like, you will never look at that movie Magic the same way again. You'll never say that's the most original, because like clearly they took that from,
almost
from
verbatim. Yeah,
pretty much. Like it's basically the same. It's the same story as Magic, pretty much. The ventriloquist dummy in this too, Hugo, looked great. Like they did a fucking great job with that. Like that was.
You imagine those seeing that in 1945. I bet that did freak people the fuck out. I bet, especially like if any little kids saw that, they were probably like scared to death because it's just that old story that's been redone probably 10 times by now in 10 different movies of like a ventriloquist and the dummy, and then like, well, look at Goosebumps.
Who's
Like
controlling who? Yeah.
they made a whole kind of like thing about that one idea, really like 2-3 different episodes in the Goosebumps series about that. But like, yeah, like it's like, how alive is this dummy? That's basically what they're talking about in that episode.
And then, towards the end of the movie too, like it all kind of wraps itself up with a bow. Like it all kind of comes together, and without giving it away, even though it is a fucking old ass, goddamn, how old is it now? Like 80.
I'm not. I
Almost
didn't know there was going to be
80,
math.
80-year-old movie.
Yeah, I would have brought a calculator or something.
But yeah, I mean, kind of a little bit of a twist ending there too about what's really going on. So it was one of the early examples of that as well. And this Dead of Night, 1945, actually was a really interesting movie. If you're a fan of the horror anthology movies, a lot of what we know and love about movies like Creep Show, or even some of the early British horror stuff, the Amicus stuff, some of the Tales of Terror and all that. Like I think that if it weren't for this movie, a lot of those movies may have never came out. Oddly enough.
Yeah, like one thing I notice about when we watch these movies, these older movies, for some reason, and I don't know if he's picking them for this reason or not, but almost all of these, you see other movies that have ripped them off. Like almost every one of the movies we've seen, these that he's recommended, like older movie, and you just begin to see that like none of that stuff was really original. They just took it from like older movies. Like they were influenced by, the guys from the 70s and the 80s were influenced by the 40s and the 50s, and like you just see it all some sort of repeating pattern. Like eventually that kind of becomes clear.
You shut them fucking dogs up,
Them dogs don't shut up. I ain't no fucking way.
And another thing too, like this is on archive.org. So I would highly recommend, if you're wanting to check this movie out, to do it on that, because there's some rough cuts of this movie around, and it took me a minute to find a pretty decent transfer of this. I don't know which company did the Blu-ray of it, but clearly like the
Is there a Blu-ray of it?
Somebody did, because that archive version did look pretty good compared to.
I wonder if it was Kino.
I couldn't even watch the rough cuts of it, man. Like I couldn't. It looked so bad, and then the audio was really shitty on those too. So, but you got to take into fact this is almost an 80-year-old movie.
Yeah.
But definitely the archive.org version of this. Yeah, William is actually in the chat. So, yeah, I appreciate the recommendations, sir, and the requests and everything. And this was actually November's request, so we were a little bit late in doing that, but you know how it goes. We'll get it eventually. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed Dead of Night. It was a fun little movie. When I knew it was an anthology, I was kind of excited about checking it out, see what it would be like. So
pretty much all of the movies that he's recommended or that he's brought up on here, like I've liked in one way or another. Even that crazy ass zoo movie that we watched last time, like that was actually fairly decent too, just for some reason.
Madison the Zoo.
Yeah, Madison and Ruzu.
But yeah, Dead of Night. Yeah, guys, I'm not sure who did the Blu-ray. Criterion or Kino, one of those companies.
Check this out, man. I'm not even kidding. It's got a 4K restoration, apparently. Special edition, though, right now you could buy it on Blu-ray for $16, which is like 44% off on Amazon. And who the hell
Who did it?
This? That's what I'm looking for. Hold on. It looks like Kino. It is Kino. I knew it.
Okay. Yep. Very cool. So yeah, Kino, I think they just recently wrapped up a big sale that they had, so they could have had it on a pretty. But yeah, definitely a classic movie for sure. Dead of Night from 1945. 45, baby. 1945, Dead of Night.
Yeah, hello. There's ghosts in this fucking building. Get them out of here.
There's little ghost children. Oh, yeah.
There's a ghost child running around. There's a freaking ventriloquist dummy.
So, yeah, be sure to check that out, Kino.com, and check us out. We're over at DEADPIT.
.com. Yeah, we'll be there.
I want all these people to click everything they're supposed to click.
You haven't been liking them, you haven't been subscribing to them, you haven't clicked the bell or notification or anything like that.
Folks, why don't you click the like button?
Do you hate us? Do you not want to see us succeed?
Why don't you click the heart button?
Is this something that you have against our particular show?
Why don't you subscribe?
You should click on one of them buttons right now if you want us to continue to bring greatness into your life.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last Out on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. You know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
Here's what other fucking Patreons do. They're like, hey, give us money and then we'll let you see a video early that we're going to release like a fucking week from now, and then that's all we're going to give you. Meanwhile, we have a literal jukebox full of songs, thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram. And help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So DeadPit on Patreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd recommend at least the $10 tier.
You can do 50. The stock market's crashing around us, folks, but send us money.